Oregon has unexpectedly found itself at the very heart of America's ever-evolving gun debate, becoming a focal point for both advocates and critics of gun control. In November 2022, after months of heated campaigning and public discussion, Oregon voters narrowly approved Measure 114, a sweeping and controversial gun control law that promised to reshape the state's approach to firearms. The measure passed by less than a single percentage point, a razor-thin margin that underscored not only Oregon's deep urban-rural divide, but also reflected the broader polarization gripping the nation on this issue. For supporters, the passage of Measure 114 was a hard-fought grassroots victory, a sign that communities can take action to address gun violence. For opponents, however, it represented a direct threat to cherished Second Amendment rights and personal freedoms. Almost overnight, the law became a national test case, drawing the attention of lawmakers, activists, and legal experts from across the country who saw Oregon as a bellwether for future gun policy. The central question quickly became, can a single state successfully implement such sweeping changes in the face of fierce opposition and logistical challenges? And beyond that, will these new regulations actually reduce gun violence and make communities safer, or will they simply create new burdens for law-abiding citizens who wish to exercise their rights? The answers to these questions could set a powerful precedent, influencing how other states approach their own gun laws and shaping the national conversation for years to come. As of November 2020 insights, Measure 114 remains tied up in a web of legal challenges, with courtrooms across the state debating its constitutionality. The law has yet to be fully implemented, leaving its future uncertain. This ongoing delay has only intensified the debate, fueling frustration and anxiety on both sides as the legal process drags on. Supporters of the law argue that the need for action is more urgent than ever, pointing to ongoing incidents of gun violence and the toll it takes on families and communities across Oregon. Meanwhile, opponents see the legal battles as a necessary defense of constitutional rights, believing that Measure 114 overreaches and sets a dangerous precedent for government overreach. Both sides are growing increasingly frustrated, feeling that the stakes couldn't be higher and that the outcome will have lasting consequences for the entire country. Oregon's ongoing struggle is a powerful example of the challenge to find common ground in American gun politics, a microcosm of the national debate, where compromise often seems out of reach. The outcome of this battle could shape the future of gun laws nationwide, influencing not just policy, but the very nature of the rights and responsibilities Americans hold dear. As the nation watches Oregon's next move, the story unfolding here may well determine the direction of America's gun debate for years to come. So, what does Measure 114 actually change? Let's break down the key provisions of this new law and see how it impacts gun ownership and public safety in Oregon. First, Measure 114 creates a permit-to-purchase system. This means that anyone who wants to buy a firearm in Oregon must first obtain a permit from their local law enforcement agency. The process is designed to add an extra layer of oversight before a gun can be purchased, making it more difficult for individuals who shouldn't have firearms to get them. Getting this permit isn't automatic. Applicants must go through a multi-step process, which includes a comprehensive background check. This check looks for criminal history, mental health issues, and other factors that might disqualify someone from owning a gun. Applicants are also fingerprinted, and their information is carefully reviewed by authorities. Second, the law requires mandatory safety training. This training isn't just a quick online course. It includes both classroom instruction and live fire practice at a certified range. Certified instructors teach these classes, covering topics like safe handling, proper storage, and the legal responsibilities of gun ownership. The goal is to ensure that every new gun owner in Oregon understands how to handle and store firearms safely, reducing the risk of accidental shootings and theft. Third, Measure 114 strengthens background checks by tying them directly to the permit process. This aims to close existing loopholes that previously allowed some sales to go through before checks were complete, making it harder for prohibited individuals to slip through the cracks. The law also establishes a public database of firearms transactions. This database is intended to help law enforcement track guns that are used in crimes, making it easier to trace firearms and hold people accountable if guns are trafficked or misused. Finally, Measure 114 bans the sale and transfer of magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. While current owners are allowed to keep their high-capacity magazines, they must follow strict storage and use conditions. The goal is to limit the potential for mass shootings by reducing access to high-capacity magazines. Supporters of Measure 114 believe these steps will help reduce mass shootings, accidental deaths, and gun violence overall. They argue that stronger regulations and better training will make communities safer. However, opponents argue that the magazine ban is especially controversial. They claim it infringes on Second Amendment rights and makes it harder for law-abiding citizens to defend themselves. The details of Measure 114 have become a major flashpoint in the national gun debate, drawing attention from both sides and sparking heated discussions about the balance between public safety and individual rights. Supporters of Measure 114 are motivated by a desire to save lives. They see the law as a way to keep guns from those who might harm themselves or others. States with similar laws have seen drops in gun violence, they argue. Many supporters are doctors, parents, and teachers who witness the toll of gun violence firsthand. They view safety training and permits as common sense, like driver's licenses or seatbelts. Limiting magazine capacity, they believe, could save lives in mass shootings. For them, the right to own a gun doesn't outweigh the right to public safety. They see the law as a step toward responsible gun ownership and a safer future. It's about protecting communities, not taking away rights. Opponents of Measure 114 see it as a fundamental threat to their rights. They argue the Second Amendment is absolute, and the law turns a right into a privilege. In rural Oregon, guns are part of daily life, for hunting, protection, and self-reliance. They feel punished for the actions of criminals, while the law burdens responsible citizens. The magazine limit and mandatory training are seen as unnecessary and intrusive. Many fear the law is a slippery slope toward more restrictions or even confiscation. For them, this is about preserving liberty and resisting government overreach. The fight is as much about principle as it is about policy. Even without legal challenges, implementing Measure 114 has been chaotic. The law created a complex system without clear funding or infrastructure. Local law enforcement lacks resources to process permits, and there aren't enough certified instructors for mandatory training. The state hasn't finalized the training curriculum or certification process, creating a bottleneck. A proposed gun database raises technical and privacy concerns with no funding allocated. Many Oregonians are uneasy about government tracking gun ownership. These logistical hurdles fuel criticism that the law is unworkable. Supporters call them growing pains. Opponents see proof the law was poorly designed. For now, Measure 114 remains a promise on paper, stuck between intention and reality. Both sides claim to champion safety, but define it differently. Supporters see safety as collective protecting schools, public spaces, and communities from gun violence. They believe regulations like permits and magazine limits are shields for the public good. For them, individual gun rights are secondary to community safety. Opponents see safety as personal, the right to defend oneself and family, especially where police response is slow. They argue that delays and restrictions could endanger people facing immediate threats. The magazine limit, they say, could leave law-abiding citizens outgunned. For them, safety means self-reliance and preparedness. The debate is not just about guns, but about whose definition of safety should prevail. Each side believes their vision is essential for a secure society. The law has become a battleground for these competing ideals. Oregon's debate is a microcosm of America's larger struggle. The question: collective security or individual empowerment? With Measure 114 stalled in the legislative process, the fight over gun regulation in Oregon has now shifted dramatically to the courts. What began as a heated political debate is now unfolding in courtrooms, where the future of the law, and perhaps gun policy nationwide, will be decided by judges rather than lawmakers. Multiple lawsuits have been filed in both state and federal courts, with plaintiffs arguing that Measure 114 violates not only Oregon's Constitution, but also the U.S. Constitution. These legal challenges are complex, involving questions about individual rights, public safety, and the limits of government power. In response, a state judge issued an order to put the law on hold, citing Oregon's strong protections for gun rights. This temporary block means the law cannot be enforced while the legal battle continues, leaving both supporters and opponents in a state of uncertainty. The case is now slowly winding its way through Oregon's legal system. Legal experts expect that the Oregon Supreme Court will ultimately have the final say on whether Measure 114 stands or falls, a decision that could have far-reaching consequences for the state. Meanwhile, a separate federal case is underway, focusing on the Second Amendment and the impact of the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 Bruin decision. which set new standards for evaluating gun laws. That landmark ruling requires that any new gun regulations must be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation, making the legal arguments even more complex and contentious. Opponents of Measure 114 argue that there is no historical precedent for requiring permits to purchase firearms or for banning high-capacity magazines, claiming such restrictions are unconstitutional. Supporters, on the other hand, insist that reasonable regulation is not only allowed, but necessary to protect public safety, and that the law fits within the framework of responsible gun ownership. The federal case could eventually make its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where a ruling could set a powerful national precedent, affecting gun laws far beyond Oregon's borders. The outcome of these court battles will not only determine the fate of Measure 114, but could also shape the direction of gun policy across the entire country for years to come. And as the legal drama unfolds, both sides are bracing for what could be a landmark decision, one that will be closely watched by advocates, lawmakers, and citizens nationwide. The stakes are high. The future of gun regulation in America hangs in the balance, with Oregon at the center of this pivotal moment. Oregon's courtroom drama could echo nationwide, influencing debates and decisions about gun rights and regulations for years to come. Oregon's battle is a national test case. Other states are watching closely. If Measure 114 survives, it could become a model for gun control elsewhere. The permit-to-purchase system is seen as the next frontier in gun regulation. Success in Oregon could spark similar laws in states like Washington or Colorado. If the law is struck down, it would be a major win for gun rights advocates and a setback for gun safety campaigns. The law's implementation struggles are a cautionary tale. Passing a law is only the first step. Effective regulation requires planning, resources, and public trust. Oregon's experience will influence future debates and strategies nationwide. The outcome here will ripple far beyond state lines. America is watching and learning. The fight over Measure 114 is about more than guns. It's about America's core values. It pits individual freedom against collective safety, two ideals that often collide in the gun debate. For some, the law threatens self-reliance and the right to defend oneself. For others, it's a moral obligation to protect communities from gun violence. Oregon is the crucible where these visions are being tested. The courts may decide the law's fate, but the conversation won't end there. Every community in America faces the same questions. How do we balance freedom and safety? What kind of society do we want to build? Oregon doesn't have the answer yet, but its struggle is a reflection of our own. The debate continues, shaping the future of American life.